When people talk about dreams, they often make them sound light like bubbles floating in the air, pretty but fragile. Mine wasn't like that. My dream had weight. It sat on my shoulders every day I walked into that office, reminding me of who I wanted to be and who I wasn't not yet. I worked as an assistant designer at one of the city's biggest luxury fashion houses. To most, it sounded glamorous tall glass windows, glowing displays, models who looked like walking art, but behind those perfect images, there were people like me, invisible hands stitching beauty, yet never seen as part of it. My boss, Mr. Raymond, was the kind of man who wore his arrogance like a custom suit, polished, confident, and impossible to ignore. I remember the day he told me without a hint of hesitation, "You have skill, Clara, but you're not luxury material. Clients want vision, not struggle." His words didn't sting right away. I smiled, nodded, and went back to sketching. But that sentence, "not luxury material," clung to me like the scent of expensive perfume that never fades. At night, while the city's neon lights danced on my apartment walls, I'd stare at my designs spread across the table. Fabric samples, sketches, notes, pieces of myself. My dream wasn't to wear luxury. It was to create it to make elegance feel human, not unreachable. But Mr. Raymond couldn't see that. To him, luxury was about exclusivity, making people feel small. To me, it was about emotion, making people feel seen. The next few months were harder than usual. Every time I brought in a new design, he'd glance, smirk, and say something like, "too soft" or "too sentimental," as if emotion had no place in beauty. I learned to smile through it, to stay professional. But deep down, I was growing restless. Then came the annual showcase, the most important event of the year. Everyone was working late, perfecting details. Mr. Raymond decided to feature his own line again. As usual, while the rest of us stayed in the background that night. While organizing fabric rolls, I overheard two senior designers talking. One of them said, "She's good, but she never make it here. She doesn't look the part, doesn't look the part." It hit harder than I expected. I realized that in a world obsessed with image, my plain clothes, my simple bun, my quiet voice, all of it made me invisible. But here's the thing about being unseen. It gives you space to watch, to learn, to grow quietly. And I did. I learned the supplier's tricks, how to talk to investors, how to read client expectations. I listened more than I spoke. I saved every bit of my paycheck, designing pieces on weekends for local boutiques, small ones, but ones that paid me for my vision, not my silence. One night, my best friend Nora looked over at me as I sketched in our tiny shared apartment. "Clara, you're building his dream. Why not build yours?" I laughed. "Mine can't afford rent." She smiled gently. "Then make it something that can." That sentence became my new mantra. A few months later, I made a decision quietly, like most big decisions in life begin. I handed in my resignation. Mr. Raymond didn't even look surprised. He just said, "Good luck, Clara. Maybe the high street needs you." It was supposed to be an insult, but to me it sounded like a challenge. The early days were chaos. I worked from a small studio I rented above a bakery where the smell of bread became my daily comfort. I didn't have investors or fancy branding, just my savings, a sewing machine, and belief fragile, yet persistent. I called my brand Aure, French for light. It wasn't about luxury in the traditional sense. My designs focused on emotion, story, and honesty. Dresses with pockets for comfort, subtle embroidery inspired by memories. I wanted people to wear meaning, not labels. The first few months were painfully slow. I sent designs to online boutiques, posted photos on social media, and delivered orders myself. Some nights I thought about giving up, but every time I did, I remembered his words, "not luxury material." I wanted to prove that luxury wasn't about exclusion. It was about connection. One morning, I woke up to hundreds of notifications. A local influencer had worn one of my dresses to a charity gala, and people loved it. Orders poured in. Suddenly, the little brand above the bakery was on every fashion blog's wants to watch lists. Still, I stayed quiet, humble. Success can be loud, but growth is often silent. A year later, I was invited to showcase my collection at the same luxury expo where I'd once been an assistant. Holding pens for other people's dreams dot as I walked through those familiar glass doors. I caught my reflection in the same marble floor, not the same girl anymore. My designs hung proudly, labeled Aure. Guests stopped, touched the fabric, smiled at the details. Then I heard his voice, Mr. Raymond. He approached my booth slowly, scanning the designs with a mix of confusion and curiosity. Aure, he said softly. That's you? I nodded. Yes, not quite luxury material, right? He paused. Then for the first time, his arrogance slipped. Clara, this is extraordinary. I smiled. It's human. That's what makes it extraordinary. That day, for the first time, I didn't need validation. I didn't need revenge. I had built something real, something that reflected me, and somewhere in his eyes, I saw the realization that luxury had finally learned humility. The applause that evening felt like waves, soft yet endless. Not because of fame, but because of what it meant. Each clap carried years of being overlooked, dismissed, told to dream smaller. When the event ended, Mr. Raymond approached me again. This time, he wasn't the man who once owned every room he entered. His voice had softened, almost uncertain. Clara, he said, we should talk. Perhaps a collaboration? Your aesthetic? It's what the market's been missing. For a brief second, the old me would have said yes, instantly hungry for acknowledgement. For a seat at the table that once rejected me, but the woman standing there now didn't need permission to belong. I smiled gently. I appreciate it, Mr. Raymond, but I think I'll keep my light and my brand just the way it is. He nodded, maybe a little embarrassed, maybe a little proud. And then he left. That night, I walked out into the cold. City air, the same streets where I once hurried to catch late-night buses home, tired and invisible. The bakery below my studio was closed, but its familiar scent lingered. I looked up at the small window above, my little workspace that had birthed something beautiful from rejection. Realized something important that night. Luxury isn't a label. It's a feeling dot. It's how you carry your story, how you choose to shine even when others say you're not made for light. Years later, Aure became more than a brand. It became a movement known for its grace, comfort, and authenticity. We worked with artisans, created sustainable fabrics, and told real stories through every piece. Women who once felt not enough wore our designs with pride. Sometimes, I'd receive messages from young designers, words filled with self-doubt and quiet fire. They'd say, Clara, they told me I don't belong in fashion because I don't look the part. And I'd reply, then build your own room. Don't wait to be invited. Because maybe that's what luxury truly means, not gold threads or crystal buttons, but freedom. The freedom to be yourself without apology. One afternoon, I passed by Mr. Raymond's old boutique. It was closed, the sign removed, the windows empty. I stood there for a while, not with pride, but peace. Some stories don't end with revenge. They end with understanding. I touched the glass door and whispered quietly, thank you for not believing in me. You taught me how to believe in myself. And as I walked away, the city lights flickered on golden soft, like the glow of my brand's name, Aure, a reminder that sometimes being told you're not luxury materialist, the best invitation to become something priceless.